Today, we're diving into a popular post from the Reddit titled as "TIFU by stuffing my face with edibles before dinner with my wife's parents." This post received 107677 upvotes. Posted by Dr. McSinister. The post reads as follows. Recently, I traveled to Denver, Colorado with my wife and my wife's parents. As a resident of a non-legalized state, and as someone who is too much a pussy to regularly buy illegal drugs, the thing I was looking forward to most was the chance to buy fancy legal weed. What could possibly go wrong? So the first thing I do upon arriving, and after successfully ditching the in-laws, is drag my wife to a nearby dispensary for a shopping spree. And oh my god, it was just like in my dreams. Tons of different options in neat little sample jars and a team of helpful stoners walking me through the various strains. Are you looking for a mellow body high? Or do you want something that gives you a bit more pep and energy? Or are you just hoping for something light to take the stress off? Yes, yes and yes. I reply eagerly, like a fat kid in a candy store, and request an eighth ounce of about 7 different options. In hindsight, if I learned anything from this experience, it is that my math and science teachers never taught me basic information, like, what is an ounce? Or, how much weed can a person consume in a single weekend? Sure, I can tell you when 2 speeding trains leaving separate stations will collide or recite Avogadro's number, but it turns out that none of that information is particularly relevant to getting high in a responsible and efficient manner. And it was at this dispensary that I also learned that you can actually smoke in public places, including the hotel that my wife and I were staying at. As a result, before leaving, I begged my wife to buy some edibles that I could munch on until we found a place to properly get lit. After expressing shock as to the absurd volume of drugs that we were buying, unlike me, she is the product of private school and understands the imperial measurement system. She relents, and we walk out of the store with what felt like a dump truck of weed plus a small package of seemingly innocuous gingersnap cookies. When we finally get back to the hotel room, I tear those bad boys open, only to find about a dozen tiny cookies roughly the size of a quarter. What the fuck, Denver? Seeing the skepticism and hunger in my eyes, my wife warns me that I should go easy and look at the back of the package first before trying one. Dose size: 1/2 cookie. I read silently as I start taking micro bites from the edges, like a giant chinchilla gnawing on a sunflower seed. But what kind of a savage only eats half a cookie? So a second later, I covertly pop the remainder into my mouth. And then I quickly stuff another 2 cookies in my mouth for good measure the moment my wife turns her back. We may not have legal weed back home, but I routinely devour an entire package of Milanos in one sitting without breaking a sweat. Your move, tiny gingersnaps. About 30 minutes later we are in the backseat of her parents' rental car on the way to dinner. And that's when things start to go tits up. My stomach growls, loudly and angrily. My wife looks at me with inquisitive eyes that seem to say, diarrhea? But I merely clutch my tummy and mumble something about altitude sickness. You didn't eat a whole cookie, did you? She asks, 10% in genuine concern and 90% in seething irritation. Of course not, I respond, avoiding eye contact for the remainder of the car ride. A few minutes later we are climbing out of her parents' rental car and heading into some trendy farm-to-table restaurant. I don't remember how I made it to my seat, and I don't remember even looking at the menu, but I do remember the concerned look on the waiter's face as he asked me if I was doing all right. Keep it together, man, I say to myself. But my wife's sudden groan suggests that I may have also said that to the waiter. Things are going downhill fast. The waiter nods sympathetically, takes our orders, and then heads to the next table. The moment he walks away, my wife is staring daggers at me. I start to worry that the jig is up. You are sweating from your entire face, she says with both pity and disgust. Not quite knowing what to do, I reach for my napkin and proceed to blot my cheeks, nose, neck, chin and forehead. At this point, my wife's mom looks over at me with some concern. Are you all right? She asks kindly. Yeah. The food's just a bit spicy, I reply, far too quick to realize that we had literally just ordered and that there is nothing on the table except for a basket of dinner rolls. My wife kicks me under the table to grab my attention. Bathroom. Now. She hisses. Get it together. I reluctantly get up from the table and head for the toilet. After splashing several handfuls of water on my face, I approach a urinal and start to pee. Now, one of the more disconcerting effects of those tiny gingersnap monsters is the feeling that time has become untethered from reality. As I am peeing, I start to get the very unsettling feeling that I have been taking a piss for the better part of an hour and that my wife must be pacing around the restaurant worried about me. But deep down I know that is absurd. I've been peeing all my life, sometimes multiple times a day. I've probably taken more than 50,000 leaks, and it usually only takes about a minute at most. So given that my typical pee is no more than 60 seconds, and given that it feels like I am about halfway done, that means that I've probably only been standing here about 30 seconds, right? But the guy at the urinal next to me doesn't respond, and instead starts shuffling away from me midstream, like a startled penguin. I try, albeit unsuccessfully, to break eye contact. After finally finishing, I again splash some water on my face and return to my seat, making sure to apologize to the table for being gone such a long time, just in case my math was off. Next, I try briefly to engage in small talk with my wife's father, but I am far too high to understand what either of us are saying. Not wanting to start laughing uncontrollably at the wrong moment, or, really, at any moment, I figure the safest idea is to nod my head periodically and drink a ton of water. Nothing cures mental fatigue like water, right? To my wife's horror, I stand up, grab my water glass and thrust it out to the waiter, who unfortunately is on the opposite side of the restaurant. But he turns out to be really cool and, after making his way over to our table, tells me that he'll do his best to keep me stocked with ice water for the rest of the meal. He also helpfully suggests that if the dinner rolls aren't too spicy for me, I should probably eat one or two so that I'm not sitting there on an empty stomach. Smart man. However, after going through all of the bread on the table and 3 glasses of water, I start to get worried that I need actual food to offset the growing paranoia from those tiny gingersnap devils. Do you think I should flag down the waiter again and ask what's taking so long? I suggest helpfully to my wife. What? We literally just ordered 3 fucking minutes ago. And at that exchange, my wife loses her cool. How many cookies did you eat? She demands. Whoa, easy there, Torquemada, I respond, somewhat horrified at her outburst. I had a few cookies, but keep it down. I don't want your parents to know how fucked up I am right now. Really? They are sitting 2 feet away from you. They know. I look up and for the first time notice both of my in-laws just staring at me. For what literally felt like an eternity. TLDR. Ate way too many edibles on a trip and wigged out during a dinner with my wife and her parents. Edit. Wow. Thanks everyone for all the love. And for even some of the hate. I think I have officially peaked in life. As for part 2 of the story, there's a reason, or, technically, 3 delicious reasons, why it was cut short. At that point, my wife's singular focus was on getting me out of the restaurant before I either puked all over the table or pissed myself, or an unsightly combination of both. So after a few spastic, 2-handed waves, goodbye, to my in-laws, she rushed me to the door like a Secret Service agent evacuating the president. My night after that was a whirlwind of barfing and groveling, mixed with a few vain attempts at getting handsy back in the hotel room. But being the absolute awesome sweetie that she is, my wife stuck with me through the whole nightmare, whispering over and over in my ear, "Please don't die, we have a mortgage." A comment from user Asokasik says, "The visual of Op standing up to have water poured into his glass from a waiter across the restaurant got me. And so did him linking his sweaty face to the spiciness of the bread. Phenomenal read from start to finish." This comment received 8262 upvotes. A comment from user Harry Lizard says, "You took 6x the recommended dose of edibles. When you had to go do something 30 minutes later. Oh my god Op. You sweet summer child. This comment received 5419 upvotes. A comment from user FR1ZB1ZNESS says, "Can confirm, from Denver. This happens often to my out-of-town friends. I always suggest, laying low. Ha 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 the part, WTF. Denver, had me thinking. Yeah, don't fuck around. Those instructions have been tested over and over." Classic. This comment received 10,881 upvotes. A comment from user Oakley like Oakley says, "Remember, you can always do more drugs, but you can never do less drugs." This comment received 686 upvotes. A comment from user Replicating Trout says, "Dealing with in-laws while stoned is the worst. I once ate half of a lemon drop while visiting my wife's uncle in CO. I'm just glad I didn't eat the whole damn thing. He liked to talk, so fortunately it wasn't too odd for me to just stare and nod. But hey, now you know. When it says half a cookie, it means half a cookie." This comment received 9328 upvotes. A comment from user KA1N3R says, "Reading stories of people fucked up more than they can handle is my favorite." This comment received 22,173 upvotes. A comment from user Multiverse M says, "One night I was the guy at the table who was way too high. Only problem was I was the waiter. I had eaten brownies right before my shift and got way higher than anticipated. I was so stoned that I couldn't talk loud enough for my tables to hear me. They seemed irritated. Every time I looked in the mirror my eyes were a darker shade of red. I was overwhelmed with paranoia and certain I was going to get fired and I just kept getting higher. Rough night." This comment received 2251 upvotes. A comment from user pro_pain says, "And then I quickly stuff another 2 cookies in my mouth for good measure the moment my wife turns her back. That's when I knew this story was going to be great. Hope your ride went well after dinner. Great read by the way, smiley face." This comment received 14,988 upvotes. A comment from user GusterGRL03 says, "This is my favorite Tfue ever. Thank you. Ridiculous man." This comment received 3777 upvotes. A comment from user Jotato says, "I know a girl in California who sometimes sends me edibles. Years ago, she sent me this giant Rice Krispie treat with a total dosage of 80 milligrams of THC. I decided to eat half and see what happens. Almost nothing. I didn't feel a damn thing. It actually wasn't quite half. Probably more like 45%. So, a few days later, I eat the rest. Again, damn near nothing happens. As it turns out, I just can't get high off marshmallow-based edibles for some reason. They just don't work very well on me. But I didn't know this then. She sends me a 220 milligrams chocolate bar a few weeks after that. I remember thinking that well, if roughly 50 milligrams did almost nothing, I felt a tiny itsy bitsy bit of high. Then I should eat the entire chocolate bar and maybe I'd get a decent high. Oh my, was that a mistake? As it turns out, chocolate-based edibles are extra effective on me. Even now, when I have years of experience with edibles and decades of experience smoking weed. I started in 1992, 50 milligrams of THC chocolate is usually too much for me. I just eaten 220 milligrams. I remember saying at one point, I can actually feel myself getting higher every second. It's like I'm riding a weed elevator. After about 2 hours, I'm losing my shit and then I realize something. My kitchen is messy and the police are definitely on their way to arrest me for letting my kitchen get so messy. So I started freaking out and panic cleaning my kitchen. It's also 2 a.m. So, imagine an insanely high person desperately cleaning his kitchen at 2 a.m. Positive the cops are about to break his door down any second and arrest him. I eventually realize I have to work the next day and I really need to sleep. My shift started at 9 a.m. and it's already 2 a.m. I slept for like 5 to 6 hours and actually woke up feeling completely fine. I don't remember the day at work at all, so I assume it was uneventful." This comment received 2415 upvotes. A comment from user lick_me_ where_I_fart says, the whole time becoming untethered bit is spot on. Last batch of cookies I made I overshot the strength, and holy shit that was a strange evening. Great story man, but you really should have seen that coming. They don't around with edibles in the legal states. This comment received 2038 upvotes. A comment from user Po0 Nani Tsunami says, I feel your pain man. I once ate 5 edibles before going through security at the airport and had a panic attack on the line to board the plane. Had to leave the line and lay down on the floor because I thought I was dying. Made it to Miami though. This comment received 578 upvotes. A comment from user QWERTY confirmed says, wow. This is the best written story I've ever read on here. I was laughing all the way through it. Well done up. Hope your wife's parents are cool about it. This comment received 2256 upvotes. A comment from user sensible username 69 says, yeah, the food's just a bit spicy. I reply, far too quick to realize that we had literally just ordered and that there is nothing on the table except for a basket of dinner rolls. Nope, nope, no. This is the moment I fucking lost it. I wish I could gild you but I'm broke. This story is glorious from start to finish. Hope you're okay now and the parents tolerate you? This comment received 983 upvotes. A comment from user MyWoodenbush1510 says, this is so funny, man. My favorite part was, keep it together, man, I say to myself. But my wife's sudden groan suggests that I may have also said that to the waiter. Classic. This comment received 346 upvotes. A comment from user Vineep3 says, brilliant stuff, definitely a solid fuck up. Well done, sir. This reminds me of the time I took 5.5 tabs of what turned out to be really strong acid. For whatever reason, sometimes acid takes up to 2 hours to kick in, and I was used to about 45 minutes, so when it didn't happen that soon I took a couple more, then more again. 1 tab, 2 tabs, 3 tabs, 4, 5.5 tabs. Fuck, where's the floor? This comment received 2654 upvotes. A comment from user Exquisite Example says, whoa, easy there. Torquemada, hee hee. I had to look this one up. Thanks for teaching me something. Your story was great, too. Good writing. This comment received 1100 upvotes. A comment from user Superalloy says, edibles are just bad news for pot newbies. 90% of the problems from legal pot have been with edibles and dosing. People don't realize edibles can take up to an hour to kick in. Dosing is not straightforward. And to top it off, sometimes a Tootsie Roll-looking thing can be enough weed to ruin your night. Chiba chews. Bud tenders should really be steering people who have never been stoned away from edibles. Doesn't help there's no place to legally smoke. Best bet would prob be disposable vape pen you can use in hotel bathroom without too much a stink. This comment received 89 upvotes. A comment from user Mr_Elroy_Jetson says, take a dose. A real dose as is described on the package. Maybe a half dose if you are a neophyte. Wait at least an hour before taking any more. This comment received 264 upvotes. A comment from user An anonymous user says, I couldn't stifle my laughter and just woke up my very pregnant, poorly and now very angry woman. Very good and funny read. Very well written also. May you continue with a follow-up of how things went from there? I really gotta know how this panned out in the end, as I'm sure the rest of us do. Especially about how your wife was with you in the end. 10 out of 10. This comment received 822 upvotes. A reply from the original author Dr. McSinister says, thanks. After the ending point in my story, things ironically became more rushed. My wife's entire focus distilled down to the singular goal of getting me home before I threw up on the table, so we went outside for some fresh air and then got our food to go. Fortunately, I am a lucky man and my wife doesn't stay angry at me for long. Deep down, I think she enjoys having a man-child for a husband. Hopefully your woman is equally patient. And congrats on the pregnancy. Closing parenthesis. This reply received 1231 upvotes. A comment from user SwaggyXwaggy says, I feel like this story is unfinished. This comment received 128 upvotes. A comment from user StackCollector says, great fuck up. I recently had my first edibles, so can understand how this could have gone so badly. But more than a great fuck up, it was beautifully written. Thanks. I laughed heartily. This comment received 62 upvotes. A comment from user Oroko66 says, dude, did kinda the same thing. Went to Colorado with some friends and got some edibles. Ate what was recommended and then went to dinner with a bunch of higher ranks. Made for a real weird night. Also learned on that trip that it is possible to wake up still high the next day. That whole weekend was crazy for us. Edibles, man. Love them but hate them also. This comment received 57 upvotes. A comment from user SatanMat2 says, upvote for using Torquemada. This comment received 168 upvotes. A comment from user C McDonald 2001 says, Sue. Did you eat the rest of the cookies when you got back to the hotel? This comment received 114 upvotes. A reply from the original author Dr. McSinister says, ha ha ha. No way. I'm going to have PTSD every time I see an edible for the rest of my life. This reply received 262 upvotes. A comment from user an anonymous user says, this is awesome. Reminds me of the time I ate mushrooms and unexpectedly got forced to go out to dinner with my wife and my kids' kindergarten teachers. I will tap out a post of that if anyone is interested. This comment received 54 upvotes. A comment from user fibrioptic_calico says, this is the best TIFU I have read. I can relate so much, we've all been there. Your storytelling really sets the scene. The bit where you said the food was too spicy when you've just ordered made me laugh. But then when the waiter suggested eating the bread rolls if they weren't too spicy for you, had me in stitches. I have to say, your description of time being untethered was spot on. Thanks for sharing, man. This comment received 324 upvotes. A comment from user Acid Rain 23 says, same thing happened to me. We were getting ready to go to the butterfly exhibit, so I had 2 cookies, a hard candy and a couple hits from what my friend was smoking. Biggest mistake ever. I was fine through the butterfly exhibit, but once we went to our tacos it was all over. This comment received 84 upvotes. A comment from user Octavian_C says, I laughed for 5 straight minutes, and then I laughed some more. My kids are looking at me like I'm a crazy person. Tears are streaming down my face. Well done, sir. Well done. This comment received 291 upvotes. A comment from user Quisatsadnov says, a pro tip for anyone curious. The correct amount of pot to take on the same day you are hanging out with in-laws is 0. This comment received 164 upvotes. A comment from user I put my trust in you says, I feel like this is a PSA to all of us who want to experience a high, but don't have access to products. Someday I will get to try edibles, and when that day comes, I will know to follow the directions. This comment received 59 upvotes. A comment from user UGGHHH_GA says, as a CO native, this reminds me of that reporter who overdid the edibles right after legalization and write about how she spent a very bad night thinking she was going to die, which authoritarian jerks of course rallied around and used to continue antagonizing responsible personal pot use. But I enjoyed your story since it isn't anti-MJ propaganda. This comment received 69 upvotes. A comment from user Nothing Casual says, dude. Bang while high. Bang your wife while you're both high. This comment received 79 upvotes. A comment from user Christopheles says, Jesus. Would you have chugged a flask of vodka right before going out with your family? This comment received 50 upvotes.